This is such an honor to be part of this family. It's such an honor to be speaking this morning. There are so many of my heroes in the house, and so it's just an incredible privilege for me. The lady pastor thing, I think is so interesting. I've been noticing, I don't know how many of you get like Charisma Magazine, the daily news stuff, but there's stuff like in the Southern Baptist Convention right now where people are boycotting like Beth Moore and whatever because we can't let her actually preach on a Sunday. We can let her talk on other days of the week, but apparently that's an issue. And I just thought, how awesome it is for me to have just been able to step into something, no questions asked. Some of the people have issues, but Dr. Hazel broke trail for me. She's got the scars on her face so that I can walk in her steps and step into something like this. She wrote the book literally when she talks about some of her early experiences. I just think how privileged I am, and how privileged I am to be able to walk into a company of people that share like heart and like vision and like mind. And we, my husband and I came into Victory just about 20 years ago now. We had been living in Tabor, and we would come occasionally to the evening services at the Lethbridge Church. And then God sent us to Grand Prairie, and we plugged in with Pastor Paul and Janice, and we've been there for 19 years and love them so much. They are spiritual parents to us. And what we found in the house, the raw passion thing that came up last night, I was born with raw passion. And, whooped for it. No, you go through like school, you go through different church environments, you go through different religious environments, and everybody tries to box you in. Everybody tries to put you in a package. And when I found Victory, I found my tribe. I feel like we have this collective roar, and to me, it's always like a Braveheart kind of thing. Like when I see that Frida, that's to me is Victory. And I struggle with like marching in step like military, but if you give me a sword and a cause, I am in. And I love that this is who we are. And so for me, it's been so easy to just jump into the Victory Vision, and every pastor, every leader that I've been able to sit under or serve with has deposited something into my life. And now we're stepping over next generation to lead what's coming ahead. And I felt like that was so significant last night, the Joshua generation, the Joshua crossing over thing. That's who we are. And for me, I think Pastor Kelly is a similar person, but we get the Victory Vision. We love the Victory Vision. We're also aware that an awful lot of people in our church came in fresh. They don't have the same battle scars. They don't have the same history. When we come together as family in a place like this, the deepest relationships are the people that we've been in the trenches with, right? It's the people that we went to war with. But some of our new people don't quite get it yet. They come in and they like the atmosphere, they like the vision, they like the drive, but they don't quite have the same investment. And so Joshua's job, I think it's so interesting, before they crossed the Jordan, that Joshua took 3 days and went through the camp and said, get ready. Like it took more than, when they left Egypt, it was a day's notice. When they left, to cross the Jordan, it was 3 days notice. It takes more to get the next generation to cross over and to get it and to understand the reason why. And the interesting thing about Joshua is that he and Caleb were the only ones that still carried a picture in their minds of why it's worth it. Why is it worth it to cross over? And I believe that we who are inheriting the Joshua generation, we need to pause and value what we have received and make purposeful deposits into the next generation. We need to explain why it's worth it, because our DNA will not change. We will always be groundbreakers. We will always be fire starters. We will always be people that do the stuff that everybody else tells us we can't do. But we need to explain to this generation why it's worth it. We need to explain to them why we need to value and treasure what's been paid for us, and we need to make use of it. And so when I got the invitation to talk about shutting the back door, I was kind of like Pastor Terry. I sent an email back and said, I am not an expert on that. Is there another topic I could do? And so I got, nope, that's your topic. So thank you very much. So I know that the team here are a praying team. And so I went and asked God, why then is this my topic? Because I'm not super good at the initial stuff. I grew up in the church, so I don't know what it's like to be a first timer in a place. I don't know what it's like to not understand the language. Like it's a stretch for me. And so the more I've realized, some of the initial, how do we retain people, and I don't want to minimize anybody who's passionate about this, but it's basic sales techniques. Truthfully, it is how people work. It's like whether we're trying to sell them a car or we're trying to invite them into the house, whatever, we have to get past people's blockages. We have to help them make a commitment. We have to help them see why it's worth it. We have to build the relationship. Basic sales techniques say when you start communicating with people, it's going to take 7 points of contact before they decide to listen to you. 7 points. So that's whether I'm trying to sell them a house or I'm trying to open them up to receive Jesus. It's the same stuff. So we got to keep working on that. And in our house, we do things like, you come in, you fill out the contact card. Not everybody does. We have, we've revamped our foyer. We actually have a lady in our house who moved here from the Bahamas, and she actually ran one of the largest resorts there. And so I asked her last summer to just do a survey of our foyer and let us know what we need to change. And so we just did things like move the welcome table and the different stuff and just change the names of stuff. It's the information counter instead of, whatever. The fellowship corner doesn't mean a lot to the average 22-year-old. It's stuff like that, right? Little things that we just had to change just to make it easy. We got our greeters because, there's people who are like, they love wearing the full suit. There's people who were like, oh my goodness, that skirt is way too short to be greeting at the door. You can't be doing that. And so we went with, we're all wearing dark pants, and we got these t-shirts that just say, how can I help you? That's it. Just simple little things like that. So we've been doing that. We ask people to fill out the contact cards, take them to the information booth. Our reason for that is, then we ask them, is there any questions that you have? Is there any place we can connect you? What's your family like? How can we serve you? We give them, a free gift. They got coffee mugs, whatever. We send them over to the coffee bar. They get a free coffee at the coffee cafe. But one of the things that has changed everything in that dimension is we've started noting that on the back of our contact card is a place for prayer requests. And we just say, for anybody, whether you've been in the church forever or you've been here just today, if you have some way that you're just needing God to touch your life or your family or whatever, fill out the prayer card and put it in the offering or bring it to the information booth, and we as a staff will pray over it. So what we do with that, we have had, it has multiplied how many people actually fill out those cards. The reason is, by the time they actually come to church, they didn't just trip into there. They didn't just come to church because they decided that they wanted something to do Sunday morning at 9:00 at all. They came because they need God. So at the point that they come in, what we've found out is that we need to automatically offer them pastoral care. We need to offer them Jesus right off the bat. And so when we make our follow-up contacts, and we have a really great lady who calls every Monday or Tuesday, phones or emails or whatever point of contact they have left us. And she'll say, we received your prayer card. Just want you to know that our staff prayed over it this morning, and we're believing that God's going to move in your life. And, just share that we've already invested in you. Is there any other way we can help you or your family? Is there a place we can get you connected? And since we started building on the relationships, people have started sticking. And it's totally changed everything, which is interesting because basic sales techniques, they say when you are communicating with people and you're trying to build the ongoing relationship, you're trying to get them to actually commit to the Lexus. It takes a bit. And so you're going to try and contact them those 7 times. But 80% of those 7 times should be based on relationship or something other than the product you're trying to give them. So it was really nice to meet you today. Have a great week. Thanks for coming in today. If there's anything I can do to help you, I would love to. Just wanted you to be aware we're having a barbecue this week. Just those relational contact things. And so you pursue the relationship, and then when it's the right time, you offer them what you have to offer them. And I thought how interesting it is that we actually have the greatest thing to offer them. And sometimes we get so awkward about it because we feel like we're shoving Jesus at people. If they're coming to the church, the Holy Spirit's already drawed them. There's already something in them that wants him. And so the 80% relation part is to just get our junk out of the way and actually help them connect with him. It's the love thing, right? It's the stuff that Jesus did when Zacchaeus actually climbed the tree. Jesus said, hey, can I come to your house and let's eat today? Right? It was immediately, Zacchaeus had already made the first move. And so Jesus responded and offered relationship immediately, offered relationship. So here's the thing. Here's where the back door comes in for me. I have got 15 minutes. I've learned a few things this year. And like I say to my kids all the time, please, for the love of God, learn from my mistakes so you don't do it yourself, And there's been some stuff that I've learned because we're focused on church growth. We're focused on reaching the community. Part of our generational shift is that we really, the first 23 years for our church in the city was a lot of groundbreaking. It was a lot of actually setting down a foundation and putting in stakes. And now we have to build on it. So part of that for us is really honestly reaching the community, building something, finding out what the people right around us, how can we serve them? How can we meet their needs? How can we come out of because your focus is different when you're planting, when you're plowing. It shifts. And when you need to build, you need to really concentrate on people. And so we've been doing a ton of outreaches, and they've been epically successful in our community. Last summer we did one barbecue. Well, we did a bunch of barbecues, but we did one. And I was praying, like, the goal was not we're going to have revival on the parking lot. The revival was, Lord, we would like people to come onto the property and not be freaked out. That's a good first start. Our goal this summer is for them to come onto the property and actually make a connection. So we do things like we put the face painting booth in the church so people actually have to come in the building because nobody turns down their 4-year-old, right? So we did a springtime thing. There was a 3-hour lineup through our church, snake through our church for the face painter, right? But people were in there and they're looking at stuff and we got good music playing and whatever. So we're focused on the outreach. And it was awesome because we've had like so many people get saved and so many people filling out connection cards and all of this stuff. But our numbers on a Sunday morning didn't really change. And where Pastor Rich says the 2,500 mark really, bothers him. My issue is if I got 10 contact cards, but my numbers did not go up by 10 people, whose 10 seats are they in? And to me, the back door is a family thing. The back door is not about the newcomers. The newcomers come in the front door, and if they don't like it, they go back out the front door. But the back door is where family slips out unnoticed. And the back door is a dangerous, dangerous place. And so to me, I don't want to look out at I've been handed something. I've been handed something that somebody else labored for, poured their blood, sweat, and tears into, that relationships that were built, lives that were saved, marriages that were counseled, families that were dedicated. I owe it to the generation before me to value what I was handed and value the family. And so it's not worth it to me to go after just the new ones without locking the back door. Right? And so I have found that, the same thing, it's a warning when we're doing church planting and we're doing outreaches and whatever. The same thing that you have to draw them in with is the same thing you have to keep them with, right? And so we know not to do anything that we're not prepared to continue on with. But if the thing that draws them in and the number one reason people stick is friendships and relationships, then the reason they stay is friendships and relationships. So I found 3 things this year, and I'm just going to give you a couple of my stories because they've been hard-won lessons, and to me, it's a very big deal. My family is multi-generational believers, and in our church on a Sunday morning, I love it when I look back and my parents are worshiping. They're on the prayer team and ministering. My kids leading worship. I'm holding my grandbabies, and when the 4 generations together are serving God, I'm like, yes. I believe that's how it works. I believe that the fruitfulness, the fullness is experienced in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob together. The word tells us that Abraham received the promise. Isaac inherited a promise. I'm an Isaac. But Jacob was the testimony of the promise. He was the testimony. He was the proof that it works. The promise that God gave Dr. George and Hazel, it's not going to be fully fulfilled until it goes fully multi-generational, until it passes on, and the next generation doesn't have to be prodded with it. They are running full steam when it actually is in their hearts. But it gets passed on by those who carry it already. And so what we got to do is watch for the people who carry it already, who might be slipping out while we're looking at the front door. We can be so focused on the front door that people slide out the back. So one of the things that is a back door draw is irrelevance. Irrelevance is this thing that we have to deal with because it's an ongoing issue for the incoming generation for sure. The incoming generation, the millennials, who, whatever your opinion on millennials, that's the world. And so statistics are by 2030, they will be 75% of our workforce. And when I hear that, and when I say that, people are like, oh, dear God, help us. Because we don't see a ton of work ethic. But why not? Because it hasn't been deposited. Because this generation is desperate for fathers and mothers to pour into them, to love into them, to deposit into them. And so irrelevance, the incoming ones need to know, why does this matter to me? How does this affect my family? And how am I valuable? Why does it matter to me? How does it affect my family? And why am I valuable? Why am I needed? You see young people right now, out there with picket signs and canvassing and doing on projects and issues that you're like, do you even know what that's about? But they're just desperate for a cause. They got fire, they got passion. Point me at something. Tell me I'm valuable. Tell me I'm needed. Tell me I'm wanted. So let's give them one. We got a cause, but we actually have to share it. We have to pass it on. But the same thing happens for the people that are in your house already. And this was the thing when I crossed over, when we transitioned, was there was some stuff that I thought was going to be an automatic Passover. In the sense that there's people that have been in the house for 20 years. I just thought they would automatically, because, Pastor Paul had installed me, that they would automatically migrate over. But what I found out was there's some people that actually saw that as, well, if Pastor's done, then so am I. Not that they didn't approve of me in my position, but they just felt like then obviously my phase of this is over. That's not true. I need those people in place. I need them to know that they are relevant, that it matters to them, that the vision still matters to them, how it affects their family, and how they are needed in it. So I have to go after those people. And one of the ways that I found it was we had a couple in the church who have been serving for a long time, youngish couple, under 40. But they, excuse me, they had basically kind of just informed me that they were leaving, that it was just time, that they, they weren't feeling at home anymore. And it was like, that's just seems odd. You've been faithful. He was ushering, she was in the children's department, their kids have been born in the church, all of this stuff. I heard other people say it's because some of the leaders got his name wrong. I thought, that's interesting. So finally, nobody had ever talked specifically to me. So finally, I just called him, and he was like, "Wow, I'm surprised to hear from you. I actually haven't heard from anybody from the church in a while." And that wasn't like that was under my leadership. They were just one of those people that was regularly in the house. And so we haven't really heard from anybody in a while. And I said, "Well, I heard something like you're leaving the church because somebody got your name wrong." He said, "Here's the thing. We've been here 10 years. We've been serving. We're on the front lines. We meet people. We shake their hands every day. And if somebody doesn't even know my name, I don't think we belong here anymore." It was the same thing. What do we tell our people when we're welcoming new people? Get their name. Call them by name. The second time they come in, call them by name. Well, good heavens. I can remember 30 of the new people I met in the last 6 months, but absolutely have to remember the name of the people who are in my house already, and those little things. So I just had to just apologize. It's as simple as that. You are relevant to this house. You are needed. And you know what? That was an oversight, and that was a mistake, and please forgive us. Please give us another chance. It's humility in that point. The second thing is isolation. Isolation is a big back door. Isolation is the thing that is risky, like with teenagers, right? Where they've got freedom, they know how to feed themselves, they know how to take care of themselves. But if you leave them alone too long, right? Stuff happens. So these are the people that are like, they know some stuff. They don't need the same ongoing care minute by minute by minute, but they do need oversight. They do need somebody checking on them. And so for me, my second year in, I was overlooking all the life groups and just trying to get a feel for what was happening in the small groups. And so I had, a few that were kind of toxic, a few of the leaders that were just like, you're teaching them what? And so, the squeaky wheels get the grease, right? I had said right off the beginning, I'm gonna migrate week by week, and I'm gonna go through all of the life groups. But the ones that were, problematic got a little bit more attention. So finally, after 6 months, one of my key couples, they announced to their life group, without saying anything to me, announced to their life group that they were turning it over to their assistant leaders, and they weren't gonna be having life group anymore. Then they sent an email to the church that they were leaving the church. What? It just came out of nowhere. And I was like, I thought that they were okay. I thought that they were doing fine. Well, when I finally contacted, they said, we trust Pastor Paul's decision and everything, and we love your preaching, and we love the vision that you're taking the church, but honestly, we find you completely unapproachable, and you have hardly talked to us this year. Ouch. And they came to the leaders meetings every month, all of that stuff, but they're highly relational people. They love people. And so when we didn't go to their house, that to them was, she doesn't care about us. And so obviously, we're not needed here anymore. We're going to go do something else. So it turns out beyond that, they had actually needed care probably a couple months earlier. They had issues with another leader couple in the church, and it had blown way out of proportion. So they were just like, we're just done. We don't want to make trouble anymore, so we're just going to go. I said, before you do that, firstly, I apologize. I am very sorry. It was absolutely not because I don't like you or love you or care about you. It's because I actually trust you completely, and I felt like you were fine, and that was my mistake. In terms of, you still need love. Your adult kids still really appreciate when you invite them for a free meal occasionally. They do. They just need to know that they're seen and loved, right? They show up for that. And so I said, before you go, could we do 3 days of prayer and fasting? And I will fast and pray with you. I'm going to ask one of the other pastors on staff to fast and pray. And then can we get together and talk about it then? So after 3 days, we fasted, we prayed, they came in, there were many tears. We did communion together, had them restore a relationship with the other couple. Now they are so plugged in, back in. I probably get a text or an email every week from them, just sending me little encouragement things. Pastor, we read this article, thought it would be helpful for you. Just on and on, we've had meals together. And they're my pillars. My pillars are back in place. I am over time. Okay, my third one, I'm just going to give it 2 minutes, and then Pastor Dan, I'll turn it over to you. You're okay? Okay, 5 minutes? Thank you. Okay, the final one is insignificance. Insignificance is this place that people get to, and I found that it happens a little bit more in our older people and in our singles. In the people that are not, because our community is very young, we actually have an average age of under 35, so a lot of young families, and there's this place where people just shift into this spot of, I don't think I'm actually needed anymore, I'm insignificant in this family because a lot of attention is going towards these young people, a lot of attention is going this direction, and I think maybe my time is over. Now for me, when people actually get a chance to hear my heart, That is the furthest thing from who I am and what I believe. I actually believe that there is no way the millennial generation will survive without the pillars that are ahead of them. There is zero chance. We need everybody. We need the moms and the dads and the grandmas and the grandpas. We need people to sow in and actually hold up weight so the others can begin to grow up in the things that God has for them. And so we've had these people, there was one couple. They had, I actually, before I came into this position, I had 5 years that I was off staff and was doing itinerant ministry. So what that meant was that I was only in the house like 1 week out of 5. So one out of 5 or 1 out of 4. So I actually lost track of a lot of the people. So when I came back in and I started to just notice like who's missing. There's some people that used to be here and why aren't they here? So I actually had some of my staff begin checking attendance records. And there's this one couple, they hadn't been there for 3 years. And I was like, what on earth? Well, here along the way, they'd gotten sick. She'd had knee problems. They'd had different health issues. And nobody checked on them. Nobody noticed that they were gone. And so 1 week led into 1 month, led into 1 year. And then it's like impossible to come back. And so we poured this, see the effort that you would put into a new person. We poured effort into these people. First off, I sent my pastoral care pastor out there just to check on them. Can we sit down and have a visit? I called them. We found out that she was having surgery. We sent flowers. We sent meals. We went way above and beyond to go after them and to say, you know what? We are so sorry you slipped through the cracks. That was, the church has been in transition. Sometimes transition's the most touchy place for a church to be in. That's when people do fall off the rails. We are so sorry, but you are so valuable and so needed. And we need your wisdom and we need your experience and we need your strength. And they are back in the church every single Sunday now and just blessing other people, sowing into other people. It's incredible. But what I've noticed is there's this thing that happens where we just can get slack with the long-term relationships. They have to have the same investment, not as constant. It's like marriage though, right? When you date and you're falling in love and you spend those concentrated times together and you learn each other and you learn to love each other, you don't still do that all through marriage. If anybody else does, that's awesome. But you do need to plan date night. Right? You do need to make the effort. You do need to go to a couples conference occasionally. You do need those windows of time where you go back and you do what you did at the beginning. And the thing is, it's the 80-20 rule. It's not just talking about the business of the church to the people that you've known in the church for a long time. It's talking to them about the 80% of life and Jesus and how are your kids, how's your family, how's your job, how's your work. I had one leader who actually, he was setting up chairs in the church and he's always fine. And I came in unexpectedly while he was setting up chairs one day and he was just down. I said, how's it going? What's going on with you? And he's just like, I don't even want to tell you. I said, well, I'm in now, obviously. He's like, oh, you're busy. I'm like, I am not too busy for you. What is going on? Well, they had been given a 1 month notice of eviction on their house. They were losing everything. And he just started crying. He's like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. I know better than this. I know God's my source. And Wayne was there too. And we just stopped. We dropped everything. Prayed for him, just wept with him, started just doing some counseling and some financial guidance and connecting with him. He almost slipped out. But to me, it's like the signs of suicide. They're subtle, right? The signs of suicide are things like talking about feeling hopeless, talking about having no purpose, talking about feeling trapped, talking about being a burden to others. It's when they begin withdrawing or isolating. The death of a relationship, to me, in the kingdom is no less tragic. And I think it's worth the fight. I think it's worth the family. I think if we're really going to be the family that goes generation to generation to generation, we guard the front door and we guard the back door and we do everything in love.